It's helping us understand better the workings of the music industry, specifically the Zambia Association of Musicians. Sitting with me on the table today is a colleague, a friend, a brother, KB. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm doing good.
You said something in the intro that the people that are making noise on social media?
Yeah.
I doubt I make a lot of noise on social media.
It's more than that. Today we want to get to the meat of the conversation.
Yeah.
It's interesting, I think for me always to speak to artists in the beginning of the year because they always start off hopeful with a vision and a plan, and then the year ends in a totally different way. And I always ask the question in the first 3 months, what are your plans for the year 2025? Because at the end of the year, I always come back and say, remember when you said ABC, how did that go? But we're in a unique period in Zambian music where I feel like we are comfortable with the sound we're making, comfortable with the videos we're making, but at the same time, it's like we keep on discovering loopholes, problems, potholes, and every time we try to fine-tune one part of this machine, another part just shows us that it's not working. The ending phase, 2024 into 2025, how do you describe it?
From my own perspective or just generally?
Your own perspective.
It was, I hate to complain. For me it was good because I managed to do what I always try to do every year, put out a song, put out an album. So that particular year, 2024, I put out Mighty Great, which did extremely well. And then we ended up working on an album which we called Mixed Feelings that we put out in November. So by the time we're getting into 2025, it was already a good year because I looked back at 2024 and I said, you know what, I achieved what I wanted to achieve. I did what I said I would do. And but considering the fact that we thought about making that album sometime was that September? Yeah, September. Then we started working in October. End of October it was done. And then we dropped it end of November. So, yeah. So I'd say it was a pretty good year. I mean, there were other stuff that was not so good, but, that's how life is. You don't expect everything to go your way sometimes, but generally it was a good year.
Yeah, I will say the same. I think last year for a lot of artists, the fact that we put out music is like amazing. But I really am finding out now that that's the first tier of music, the fact that you put out music. So let's not congratulate you for walking because you're already past the baby stage, you understand, right? So the technical issues are what we need to fine-tune in Zambian music. Yeah. And that's what I want to hit to, but I think it's quite unfair to move on without recognizing how pivotal Dandy's death might have been to Zambian music and the industry. A lot of confusion there with the organization, the social media stories of it all, but at the end it turned out great. We sent him off as the icon and the artist that he was. Yeah. You being somebody who's closer to him than I was, relatively. I don't know how close you were to him, but being in the circle, what would you say was the thing that went wrong?
In terms of what?
In terms of the commotion and the noise we all saw.
Well, first of all, you have to realize that Dandy was a huge figure. He was a very, very important figure in the music industry, so you would expect that there was going to be some sort of confusion. Yes, I mean, I don't like to dwell into so much of that thing because it looked like I'm gossiping. But generally, I would say, for me, it was a learning curve. For me, I feel like that was the first time I saw something of that magnitude, because even when we went for the funeral at the showgrounds, I think, in my opinion, that's the first time I've been to a funeral that had so many people and just the mood, and you realize that they really, really, really loved him. I'd not anticipate something of that magnitude. Obviously, we've had so many funerals, and but seeing that made me realize that he was a very, very important figure in the music industry. And of course, if you have to deal with something of that magnitude, obviously there's going to be some loopholes, or there's going to be some situations that might throw some people off and, make, say, for example, the musician look a bit disorganized. But in the end, it was handled. See, that's the most important thing. I mean, there's always going to be situations like that because as human beings, we're all different, we think differently, and just, it's crazy. But, yeah, I think in the end, it was handled properly. That's the most important thing in my opinion.
Yeah, but we gave him a send-off.
Exactly.
I would really like to move on, but I will stay here.
A send-off befitting him.
Yeah, send-off befitting him. You always bring people together through music. I think even your diary, my diary always brings artists, upcoming, the ones that are doing well, just to, share how it's all been. And I love that unity. I love that presentation. We don't get that from the artists. And I was speaking to Chameleon on the show in the middle of the week on Wednesday, and he said something that everybody who voiced out something about Dandy didn't know him. And and he said if you've noticed, us the OG artists, or us the artists that have been making music 10, 20 years, beyond that timeline, we weren't vocal about it. I see you as one of those artists who's managed to bridge the gap between artists happening now and also have dabbled in your own time making music then, when it was CDs and discs and the likes. Tapes.
I actually joined the industry when I was using floppy disks.
I don't even know what that is.
Exactly.
So you see that. What was that? Why is it that the vocal voices were the newer artists, or the artists that are not so,
Again, like I said, I mean, I can't really tell because I can't tell how somebody reasons and what people do it for. All I know is that, like a person like me, I'm very reserved. I pick what to say or what to put out on social media. So whether the younger people spoke about it more, I don't know if I'm too sure about that. But you want to put me in a rabbit hole. I was lucky because I know Dandy right from the beginning of his career. I remember when he used to come to Lusaka to promote his music when I just joined QFM back in 2004-5. I think it was 2005. Before most of those songs, and he would come, he was very lively, and that's when we became friends. And we've been friends since. I wouldn't really say close because, you see, in the industry, there are people that you are in the same circle because you have got similar attributes, like, you like the same things, you hang out in the same places, so you hang out all the time. So Dandy was for me, it was like an industry friend. When we link up, it was a good catch-up. He was a comedian. He'll crack us up and, we'll have a very good laugh. We'll throw it back. We'll talk about memories from back then when the music industry was starting. Because we have the similar struggle, Us coming in was so difficult. You see some people coming in and it's like, oh, and when you think about where you come from, and it was always just nice to talk about it because it humbles you, it reminds you of where you're coming from, and I think that's the reason why a lot of people from my generation had a lot of success. I mean, you can argue also that there are some that have disappeared and maybe haven't done so much to keep them going now, and but yeah, I mean that debate is it's a very debatable issue. But generally, speaking from my own point of view, I would say we are reserved. People from my generation are very reserved. I don't know too many people that are pretty loud. Maybe because we didn't have social media back in the day, and now social media is a Gen Z, is mostly like a Gen Z. I mean, social media has been around for a while, but I don't think we utilize it like the way the Gen Z. Even when I was coming in, I was telling you that people tell me I don't do a lot of pictures or I don't do a lot of content, and and I feel like it's actually true. I think I should do it more often. We're all different with the way we deal with things. I know for sure that I am very reserved about so many things, so that's what I'll say.
That's a nice way to avoid the question, but I'll leave it at that.
I think I answered the question. What was the question?
I also think you've answered the question.
You know, let me go straight to the point. What was the
question? Was why is that? Why isn't it that, you know, people that we think would be in the same, like you said, same league of music with Daniel are not so vocal about what was happening?
So because I answered it that way because if I answered it any other way, I might look like I'm attacking people, you know, and I'm not in the business of, because, you know, you have to be very careful with what you say. You know, sometimes you might say something from an honest place, and somebody might feel offended, like, oh, why would he say that? Just because, you know what I'm saying? So I try to be very careful with what I say. You know, I'd rather give my opinion of how I would handle things than, you know, the other person, because I don't know how they think. That's how they think. And if that's how they handle it, that's exactly how they handle it. So, you know, I don't try to get into those spaces.
You say that, but that's not the case with a lot of other musicians.
Yeah.
Like you said, with social media, people are more vocal. People are very comfortable with saying what they want to say. And I think that's why it's very intriguing for me, especially I called Dandy's funeral pivotal because it showed us that maybe the unity you guys preached or you say you have isn't really true. Again, I was speaking to Alpha Romeo just a couple of weeks ago, and he said, unfortunately, the business is you will step on whoever you have to step on to get to where you want to get to. Are you of that view?
I think I've said in one of my diaries that, you know, we're not really friends in this industry and we're just here to use each other. To some extent, that could be true. I mean, I come in here before us being in the industry, I didn't know who you were, and I probably would never know who you are. But we know each other because we're in the same industry. You know, you know about KB, you invite me to the interview, and that's how we know each other, you know. So you don't invite me because you feel like, oh, KB is a friend of mine. You invite me because you feel like, oh, if I bring KB here, he's going to say something, then, you know, or maybe I might get him to say something controversial. I need to raise my numbers and whatever it is, you know, you'll smile at me, you'll send me messages and, you know, but I would never know what your agenda is. You know, and that's why I say that. But in essence, it is true. I mean, your friends are people that you probably grew up with and, you know, people that know you before you became who you are. You know, our lives as public figures is different from our actual lives. You know what I'm saying? Like, even with me, I don't know your background. You know what I'm saying? I mean, we're just being cordial because we're in the same industry. You know, that's why we're cordial. We have to be nice to each other. But I don't know if we can click outside the industry, and I think that's the point that he was trying to raise. So, but I do have a few friends in the industry, people that I can call friends, people that, you know, as time has gone by, we've been able to become friends and found like a common goal, and, you know, but majority of the people is mostly because we know each other, we can do work together. I know I can, you know, I can call you for something and you can help me. Then in return, I can also do something for you that you find beneficial, and we're okay with that. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you know, but people should not feel entitled. You know, you should never get to a point where you start to feel entitled, like, I didn't it because I've done this, so this one has done this, or whatever it is. I mean, that's how it is. I mean, it's the industry, you know. Just because I've done a favor for you, I should not come back in return and say, because I did this for you, so you automatically need to do this back for me, then, you know, then we're even, then I should, you know, when you do something, then I go on social media and say, Wellington is a snitch. Wellington, you know, he used me. He used to call me. I used to come for his interviews, but me, when I called him for Shine, he never showed up. You know, and that's what I tell people. I warn people, you should never, ever feel entitled, you know. Do it. If you're going to do something, do it because you want to do it. And in return, don't think because you did something and, you know, who knows, maybe they're busy or maybe they don't feel comfortable to do what you want them to do. Sometimes people will not tell you. So, for example, they say, can you help me do this? But in your mind, you're thinking, KB is a solid guy, but how do I tell him, like, I can't do that? You know, sometimes people will not be able to tell you. And for me, I had to learn these things. You know, before, obviously, I'd feel some type of way. Like, I would ask for a feature for somebody, and, you know, they don't get back to me, thinking, why aren't they answering my calls? Or, you know, but you realize that at some point, it's because they have the respect for you, and they don't know how to tell you, I can't do this because of ABC, you know, and they just decide just to go quiet. And in your mind, it's like, this guy is fake, or whatever it is, you know, for a long time you hold a grudge. Then at some point you come to realize that the reason they did that is because of ABC. And now you start to think like, you know what? This whole time I've just been entitled, you know? If something can't work, there's a reason why it can't work. Just leave it. Just move on. Don't feel entitled to it. So that's how I look at it.
Yeah. Let's talk about the Association of Musicians, a body that's been alive since the 90s, I just learned recently.
Yeah.
But it's like every time people talk about something like we need structure, we need, a body, we need... The Association of Musicians is there, as well as the body that protects intellectual property, ZAMCOPS as well.
Yeah.
Why does it feel like these institutions are failing in their obligation to do things? And I think, again, unfortunately, I'll go back to Dine's funeral because it felt like the Association of Musicians promised things like, a pension. They promised things like a little here and there. Like if you're a paying member, this is what we're going to do for you. But it just felt disorganized and it felt like the onus was on them to take leadership. And we had individuals then coming in. There was nobody to spearhead the conversation for artists in a time like that.
Again, I don't want to sound like I'm attacking, and that's the reason why I am running, for vice president, and before he's running for president. It's because obviously when you sit in the background and you see certain things and you're thinking, like, you know what, if I was in there, I would have done something different.
How long have you been a member?
I've been a member for a very long time. I've been a member of ZAM since 2017.
Okay.
Yeah, but I mean, I've always been in the background. I just not paid my subscription, but I've been following ZAM from like as far back as 2005, 6, I think. So I officially joined 2007. Then I ran for treasurer in 2018. That's not the position that I was vying for. It was just one of those where, oh, okay, KB, I think you're gonna run there. Before you're gonna run here, and yeah. And I was part of that team, I think, for just like a month or two, I can't remember. Then I resigned. Then I stayed away. That's the period when I went and became CEO of Nexus. I sort of just put that behind. Until recently, I got up and I said, you know what? If you want to be a part of that solution, you have to be a part of it. You can't just sit and always criticize or be a part of everybody else that is saying this. Why don't you go out there and give it a shot? Give it a shot, give it your best, whether it works or not, at least you know that you are trying, Of course, you're going to come and hold me responsible and say, okay, you're running, you said you're going to do this, this and that, but still we're here, blah, 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 blah. And I try and say, okay, cool, yes, I try to do this and that. Some of the things didn't work because of ABC, but, we try to do. So for me, it's not more of we're going to change it. Like when we come, it's going to be, that will be a bit unrealistic, The way I look at it is like when you come in, you want to see certain things change and you work towards them. Because you're always thinking in your mind, like, if it was me, this is how I would have handled it. But if you have an opportunity, give it a shot, see where it takes you. If you don't achieve those things, because the period is pretty short, in the 2 years or the 4 years, you would have laid the foundation for the people coming through that will now be able to take your vision forward. That's how I look at it. So, yes, there's so many things that I feel like when we come in that we can work on, so many things that I feel like should have been done. But obviously, I'm not in there to know what the problem is. Obviously, I would say there have been a lot of challenges. Say, for example, there's been a lot of challenges to get money, a lot of challenges to convince people to join the association. So there's certain things that maybe they might wanted to do, but they weren't able to do because of all these big challenges, So everybody's got the reason. So I wouldn't come and fully criticize and say you failed to do that or you failed to do this. The only thing you can do is, okay, you know what? If you fail to do that, let the people give us a chance. Let's see if we can give it a shot, with a good team. Let's see what we can do, Let's see if we can put some things in place that will be able to help the association even grow or give it the visibility that it needs, convince a lot of people to come in and just put some deliberate policies that can help the association move forward. I can tell you, like the COAS, I don't know if you know COAS, the Comedy Association, I think they're very, very organized. We can look at that association and say, you know what, if they can do it, why can't we? They're organized, and they tried. I've seen what they've done, and I've been impressed. And I think if we put our minds together and do the right thing, sometimes also I think we'll be able to achieve some things.
That was a lot of words, KB, but I want to ask, as an artist who is standing from the circle right now outside of the leadership, and also from a very unique perspective of you as a producer, which is a part of the music industry that's very big, but unfortunately, like, a lot of producers cry about money, about fair play, about, you know, their own intellectual property feeding into how much money is made from the tracks, from the album and the like. What do you think is the disconnect between the policies put in place by the association and them reaching those other spheres and those other members of music, apart from the main artist, people like the promoter, people like the manager, people like the, you know, producer, people like the dancer, you know, all those other people that the artist brings up with them? What is the problem there? What's the disconnect there?
I wouldn't really say there's a disconnect. I would just like to think that, remember, our music industry, I hate to say this, but we're still growing, you know, compared to, say, for example, the Tanzanian music industry, you know, the Kenyan, you know. I would like even to think that even the Namibian music industry is probably even a little bit more organized than us, because they've also been able to put, oh no, they are. I see you're shaking your head. No, but definitely. I mean, I wouldn't, maybe it might be wrong for me to say more than us, but just from what I see, being in the industry for a very long time, seeing how they're running their business, and, you know, even just Malawi, you know, if you look at Malawi, the copyright body collects the royalties properly. I don't even know if Diamond TV pays Zamcops for music that play on TV?
Yes, we do.
You do?
Mm. So where's our money going, KB? That's a question to ask.
I was having a conversation with the director. I mean, I think I need to have this conversation with him again. So, listen, there's a lot of problems in the industry, and it's just not. I don't want to put the blames on the association. It's just so many things that, you know, when they come together, will expose where the problems are. So I think in curing this issue, I think we need to, first of all, put all these things in order. You know, we should have these stakeholders meetings. You know, and my opinion, obviously, is like even Zam and Zamcorps are kind of interrelated. So we sit down and, you know, have this conversation and see how can we make this better.
Make it better.
Where is the problem? Okay, the problem is here. Okay, we come. So why isn't, you know, artists are complaining they're not getting the money. Why aren't you paying? Why aren't you paying the money? Or why are you paying so little money when our friends in Malawi or, you know, have been able to do some of these things the way they're supposed to be done? And, you know, there's so many conversations that we need to have around these things. Sorry, it's hard for me to answer. You know,
I hear you.
So I need to give examples for me to get to where I'm getting to. So so answering your question, just like you said, most of these things are not in order, and that's the reason why you look like an association is looking like they don't know what they're doing. I don't think they don't really know what they're doing. I think we just need to put some deliberate policies in order to make sure that these things are going properly. Like when I come in, say for example, if I'm voted in as vice president, I already outlined some of the agendas that I want to put in place. For example, I'm big on the monetization because I feel, you know, the music industry, from where we come from, we used to do CDs, tapes, and now everything's digital. So there's mechanical rights, you know, where you're getting your money from, say, if you put your music out on Spotify, Apple Music, you know, Deezer, YouTube, and all that kind of stuff. Then there's money that you collect from, you know, the royalties where, what you call that royalty? The name is gone. Like the royalties you collect from Zamcops. You know, where if your music plays on TV, you know, if my song is used in a commercial, you know, and if you don't register, for example, you don't register with Zamcorps or ASCAP or any one of these international bodies, you'll not be able to collect that money.
Yeah.
And you're losing money. You know, and I know a lot of Zambian artists that have not signed up with Zamcorps, and I can tell you, some of the big artists are losing a lot of money. And I know where the complaint is. The complaint is that, no, but they don't pay enough. And, you know, and when you go and see them, they'll tell you the reason why we're not paying enough is because most of these institutes are not paying us. You know, I'm not going to mention names, but they tell you, that so-so TV station, they don't pay, they say, because they're promoting you. Why should we be paying you when we're promoting you? You know?
It's a big conversation.
It is a very big conversation. You asked it to
continue having. But we're pressed on time, KB. I know you're running, and I'm rooting for you. If I was a member, I would vote. But I'm asking everybody to go ahead and register. In a few words, as we wrap up the conversation, as you head into the elections, as you head into preparing to, change the Association of Musicians, what's one thing that's on top of your head? What's something that you are wishing to do, real quick?
Like I said, my biggest agenda when I come in, obviously, is to fix that whole monetization thing. I mean, if you've noticed, I've been trying, every now and then I'll put hints on my social media, talk about how you need to upload your music, how you can claim your royalties, and all that kind of stuff. But in my own capacity, it's not enough for me to just talk about it on Facebook. But if I have a bigger platform, I can lobby for fans, and we can do workshops. You know what I'm saying? We can get some work done. Say, for example, if you say, let's do some training, like in all provinces, we do some trainings where I train you. Say, for example, I shouldn't be one of the few people that is able to do some of these things. A lot of people need to have knowledge because that's your money.
Yeah.
You need to learn how to do some of these things. So if we can teach people how to do these things, that would be my biggest agenda, so that people can start making money. So people should not think that you can only make money from shows. That mentality of, let me just make music and put it out for free. Then, when the music blows up, then I'll make money through shows. No, you can make money from royalties. If you brand yourself, you can make money from, companies that, are willing to use your brand because, you look good as a brand. And, there are all these things that you need to put in place. And obviously, with the vision of the would-be president, there's so many things we basically want to put it in order. It should be well structured. Even when you talk about this, like, you know what, there's something there. Like, it's not yet there, but
we can see
like, okay, Zam has got structure. It's got a lot of members. Zam right now doesn't have a lot of members. There's a lot of
we get you
artists that are not, set up.
Thank you so much, KB, for coming through.
You're chasing me. We're still talking.
I know, but we need to get on a break, and we'll be back right after this. All right.
Exactly what you want to get out of it. So it's been a roller coaster. I've learned so much, and I think I'm at the point where I'm satisfied. I'm not exactly where I want to be, but it's gratifying.
Just hold on again. Or is he talking to me? Then switch me off. Stand by. I don't like these things.
Right?
It makes me look crazy. Like every now and then I'm like, what? And then the person that crossed me is like,
what are you saying?
Going on. Cool. And Charles, wait, do you want me more like this or like this? Because I've been like this the whole time. That's not great advice. Okay. We continue with our conversation. A lot to talk about there, and a lot is going on. And I think I want to now kind of break it down piece by piece. We understand the bigger vision and where we're trying to go. I have the privilege to talk to artists on a daily basis, I believe, and these are artists that are established artists, that are in gospel music, artists that are just coming up and the like. The other day, Broken Hill Emmy was on the show, and it was around the time that there was a huge campaign to get artists registered under the Association of Musicians. Then there was an outcry from people to say there's no way you can cancel us from shows, you can cancel promoters as well from hiring us. But Broken Hill's only concern was that the money was too much. And to a lay Zambian, a 300 kwacha doesn't seem like a lot of money. Well, maybe I'm talking from my own point of view, where 300 kwacha doesn't seem like a lot of money. So now I want to understand the logistics around that subscription.
That's 300 kwacha for the whole year.
Oh, that's the whole year?
Yes.
Thank you so much because it's not monthly.
No, impossible. It can't be monthly. Come on. Who's going to afford that? It's 300 kwacha for the whole year. It's annual fee. It's an annual fee. That's why I'm like, when you're saying it's too much, I'm like, so if you break down 300 by 12 months, how much are you paying in a month?
Yeah.
It's 300 kwacha for a whole year. Actually, it used to be 100 kwacha.
Oh, the whole year.
Yes, it used to be 100 quarters, like, it's too little.
So when people say the association doesn't know how to handle money, what money are they talking about?
Again, the fact that I'm not in there, I wouldn't know exactly what the money is used for, but I'd like to believe the money for the association, the money that you guys put up is money that is supposed to obviously run the organization. You know, there's so many things that, you know, like for example, when there's a funeral, contributions and, you know, that sort of thing. But, you know, there's more to it than just contribution. Obviously, an association has to sustain itself, not just from subscription fees, but obviously being a self-sufficient organization, you know, finding, say, for example, you know, doing events, workshops, just, you know, so many things that can bring the association money. Say, for example, you have got a yearly show or a yearly event that is making you good money, maybe 3 or 4 of those every single year that is bringing the money to association. I mean, musicians are coming, obviously they get a little cut, but most of it comes to the association, and you have like a pool of money sitting somewhere that can help in the future. Say, for example, you're an artist, maybe you were sick and you signed up for something. It's easy for you to access that money. You don't only have to access that money when you die, or maybe, for example, you need help, you need to travel somewhere, and you're a member and you're in a better position to get whatever you want to get, and the association is able to help out. But in my opinion, I'm not in there, but that's how I look at it. I mean, when I get in there, obviously I'll familiarize myself with how everything is working, then we can start to make some of those decisions. So I feel like the subscription itself is not enough to sustain the association. There's so many things that we need to do, not even just lobbying. You know, most of the times we always cry, oh no, because it's under NAC, which in turn NAC is under the government. So obviously when they're doing the CDF, so we also need it. Of course, you know, we might need that, but I've never been for the idea for handouts. I always feel like an association can stand on its own. There's so many things that you can do to make money. You know, so those are some of the things that, you know, together with the team, we'll sit down and, you know, navigate through it and find ways to make it work. So that 300 monthly is yearly, and I think it's very, very affordable.
If it's so affordable, why don't we have a lot of people?
Again, like I said, I'm not in the current association, but so maybe...
You said you joined in 2017, right?
Yeah,
you became a paying member in 2017. So what made you become a paying member after being active in music and, you know, in the background, making music, producing, everything?
Well, because one, I realized that everywhere you go, you can't function without an association. You know, the association, like I'll give you an example. When, I don't want to mention him, when one of the artists that I was managing was supposed to be traveling to Europe, I don't know, Europe, or to go and perform, you need a letter from ZAM to certify that, yes, this one is a member of ZAM, and, you know, you give blessings, and without that letter, you're not going to get your visa. So already, you can't function without an association. So you realizing that no matter what you do, you always have to be a part of an association. But you see, I felt like for the longest of time, people just didn't agree with the way things were done, so they just felt like, why am I being part of this association? Why am I giving my money? You know, I don't see the benefit. And most of the upcoming artists, the way they think is, if I pay that 300, then I should start automatically getting opportunities. If there's a show, they're supposed to call me for the show. Yeah, of course, if you're qualified, you're going to get the shows. But in your mind, just because you have paid, you automatically think that I can't repeat it. So, it doesn't work like that. You know, of course, you're part of the association, but even you to be picked, because what happens is, say, for example, an organization come and say, we need artists to perform at an inauguration or blah, 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 blah. You know, the first people they're going to call is the association. They're not going to call the artists directly or call association, because they have to go through a body, another body. We need artists, blah, 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 blah. They say, we need that artist. No, this artist is not a member of ZAM Corps. Sorry, he's not a member of ZAM. He's not a member of ZAM. Okay. Unfortunately, they're not going to hire you because you're not a member of ZAM. But what they do in some cases, what I heard they'll do is, if that's the one that they want, I'll come to and say, listen, they want you for the show, blah, 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 blah. So, in your best interest, you need to sign up quickly, you know, pay that, then you're a member, then you get that show. You know, and I think that's the wrong way of doing things. It's just supposed to be a natural instinct. Just be a part of association. Like all these associations that we have, like the Comedy Association, you know, the Lawyers Association, all these, you have to be a part of them. It's no different with the music industry. But like I said, when we come in, if we're voted in, we obviously have to give it we have to make it appealing. It has to feel cool to be a part of it. Like when you get into the industry, you have to feel like, yeah, now that I'm starting to pop now, I need to be a member of ZAM. We shouldn't start forcing you. It's like, no, join. Hey. You just have to look at it and say, wow, all these guys are members. Like I have to be a member for me to be a part of that elite team. That's how I look at it.
Makes sense. And I love that you've touched that, because I was about to ask how you plan to fix that issue.
Yeah.
The association came out debunking Biflo and Roberto's theory of if you're not registered, you won't get shows. You won't.
Really say that?
Yes. The association.
I think that was just supposed to be a joke or something.
So there was no intention of that, because the association made it clear that that's not what they're going to do.
Yeah.
So how are you going to police the idea of being a member?
Just make it relatable, easy on the eye. People should just fall in love with it. Nobody's going to use a whip and say, oh, if you don't do this, then automatically, listen, like I told you, if you're not a signed-up member, you get an opportunity to go and perform in America. How are you going to go if you don't get a recommendation letter from ZAM? That's not going to be possible. You can't, you're a big artist and you're getting all these opportunities. You want to perform at a state function. You can't, because you're not part of. There are rules to this thing. It's like saying, can this country run without a president, or without all these rules or whatever the case be? You say, okay, the country is going to be on autopilot. So you as an artist, you just decide in your head that I don't want to be a part of this association. You're running on autopilot. You have to be part of the association, because from there you learn, and that's where a lot of even opportunities are. And I learned this, and the reason why I joined, because I learned at a later stage that we used to miss out on opportunities because these opportunities were presented to members. You know what I'm saying? These opportunities were presented to members. If you're a member, you hear about these opportunities. So even if you hear about it, but if you're not a member, how are you going to be a part of it when you're not a member? So basically, most of the people that were getting these opportunities were just a few elite, or just a few that decided, you know what, we want to be members. Because if you even look at, I don't know what the percentage is, but it's extremely low. The compliance levels are extremely low. And for me, it's worrisome, to say the least, And it shouldn't be that case. It should be so easy. I should look at majority of the top artists are not even members, and most of them joined because they needed to, say for example, because they needed to do this, so they had no choice but to sign up to become a ZAM member. And a lot of up and coming don't see the need now until when that time comes. Then they'll get a question. Listen, they want you, but you can't be a part of it because you're not a ZAM member. They don't quickly okay, let me make the payment quickly. Then the next thing, you don't sign up. Then when an opportunity comes again, you want to sign up.
You see what I'm
trying to say? So you're trying to take that out of the equation. Be a member of ZAM, and you get opportunities. You definitely get opportunities, but you have to position yourself. It's not automatic that because, now that I'm a member, so I'm a manager, I'm better show, no. It's just you position yourself, and just make sure that when the opportunity comes, you're also ready.
Yeah. Do you believe the government's relationship with the association is solid?
Again, I'm not in the association. I am a member, but it just ends there. I don't go sit in meetings and know exactly what they talk about. And obviously, the NEC, we're not privy to the conversation that they'll have. They probably go, I used to meet the president when I was doing stuff with the Ministry of Youth and Sport. So I'd meet the president there most of the times. And obviously, there were conversations that were happening. I was not privy to everything that was talked about, but of course there are conversations, but I don't know what conversations there are. All I know is that when I come in, I don't know what the conversations that will be happening, and I'll communicate the conversations. If there are opportunities, if there are going to be opportunities, it's my right to come and tell you, listen guys, these are the benefits. If you come in, these will be the benefits. But I'm not promising that if you sign up automatically, then this is going to happen. No, it's just you position yourself. It's like saying, you want to get a job here at Diamond TV, and I say, for you to get a job here, you have to audition. And I'm not saying if you audition, automatically you get the job. They might like you, they might not like you. But you've taken the step. You've taken the step to come and audition, to get an opportunity. to get a job and start working. So those are the opportunities that we're going to talk about. Of course, there's going to be a lot of engagement. And what we try to do mostly is to try and communicate as much as possible. It should not be a secret society. Zam should not be like a secret society where just a few are signed up and a lot of people don't even know about it. I should be able to communicate this to you all the time, and we have that influence, we have those numbers, and we're able to talk to the people and say, listen, we're here now, this is what you can do. Nobody's going to force you. If you want to do, if you don't want to, it's entirely up to you. I mean, it's a democracy at the end of the day. Nobody's going to carry a whip, but we'll be loud about it. Tell you the benefits, and if you think that something is beneficial, if you don't have ambitions to go perform outside or be part of some of these things, then that's entirely up to you.
How do you plan to handle artists that believe they're bigger than the association?
Nobody's ever going to be bigger than the association.
And gospel artists.
Nobody is ever going to be bigger. It's like how we say no football player is bigger than a team. It's impossible. I mean, if that's how you think, there's nothing I can do. If I come to you trying to convince you, if I sell something to you, and in your mind you still think, no, I don't want to be a part of it, then you have your agenda, and that's what you want to do. Then in the end, I can't convince everybody to be a part of a team. But if I can get majority on the team, then for me that's a success. I know for the fact I won't get everybody. It's impossible. In the same way, not the whole country votes. Out of 20 million, you find the register shows you only 4 million people voted. You see what I'm trying to say? So the most important thing is to get as many people as possible onto the association, make them understand that this is how these things are working, and they will know. I mean, when we come in, obviously, we'll explain all these things in detail so that you can make your own decision. You can sit down and say, so there's this opportunity. 300 in 1 year. Okay, let me pay up. Let me see what this is all about. Let me see for yourself, and we can move on from that.
Yeah, I love that you've brought in the voting aspect. And also you running for office.
Yeah.
Of late on social media, Mikey too brought up a revolution, which is young people need to rise up and support themselves. But I saw a video where somebody was debunking the claims that Mikey too is young. Do you believe...
That's the biggest problem.
Do you believe that an artist can truly represent people beyond just music and away from them having influence and us knowing them through the music?
Why not? It's because let me debunk that. Is it because you're a musician and people just think, you're just a clown, all you do is just entertain people? Even musicians themselves have had ambitions to do certain things. That just because you're an entertainer doesn't mean that you can't run for certain offices. Former Liberian President George Weah, he ran for president and became president. He was a football player, but he had ambitions and he went for it. And remember, this young generation, whether you like it or not, is the future. You are the majority. It's basically yours. You know what I'm saying? But the young people, the older people are phasing out slowly. It's your time. It's your time now to become intellect. It's your time to be smart. It's your time to start reasoning. It's your time to start thinking, you know what? I think this can be done better. So if you have to move, it's your time. You need to invoke that. And that's the reason why I like what Mikey 2 is doing, because it's telling me that somebody's standing up and saying, listen, if nobody wants to stand up, I'll stand up and I'll be the example. Don't be scared. If you have ambitions and if you think you're qualified enough, why not? Why are you just sitting, because at the end of the day, you're just going to be sitting and just always be complaining, oh no, things are not good. Oh, why do they always have old people in parliament? Or why? That's all you're going to be doing. But if you take a bold step and say, listen, I want to be that change, I have to start now. It's not going to be easy, but I have to start now. I have to be part of the solution. So if the younger people start taking up these positions, of course that people are going to say, these things are not easy. People are going to say that. We were told that even when we get in the industry. You think this industry is going to be easy. It's not going to be easy. Blah, 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 blah. But if you know what you want to do, would rather I go try something and I fail. And I say, you know what, at least I tried. And just sit there and, somebody intimidate me that you can't do that. If that's what I want to do, of course I'm going to do it. And that's what I like about what Monkey 2 is trying to do. He's trying to inspire the young people like you. It's your time. Don't look at yourself and no, because I'm in my 20s or I'm in my early 30s, maybe I'm too young. There's nothing like that. There's nothing like you're too young. For as long as your brain has matured enough to reason and to think like, you know what, I can make a difference, go for it. What are you waiting for? Don't wait for people to think for you. And you, the younger people, and I'll say this, and sorry, I think I'm talking too much now. And people ask me, KB, how have you been able to stay relevant all these years? And I tell you why I've been relevant all these years, because I surround myself with very young people. My current co-producer is 21 years old, the same age as my son. I'm learning so much from him because they're the generation that understand what's happening now. My mind is still stuck. It might not be stuck, in the past, but, things are changing all the time. So if you are always associating yourself with younger people, you're always learning something new because they understand what's happening. They know what's new, what's trending because they're on the ground. They know exactly what's happening. They're with the other younger people. I'm hanging out with the older people. So if I go there, I'm learning something. I'm working with younger artists. That's the reason I say KB is always working with upcoming artists because they are young, they're hungry, they know what's new, they know the new sound, and I can incorporate my old and new and put it together, and I'm able to do what I can do. So for me, young is very important, and I'm not one of those who's going to sit and say, I can't listen to young. I can listen to it. If you have got a brilliant idea, I'll sit down and I'll listen because I know I'm going to learn so much. I know I can learn from you. I can sit down and listen to you, and I was like, he's a youngster, but he's got something there. All I'll do is probably just add my expertise and maybe a bit of my experience, put it together, and we'll get something solid. So young is the future.
Nice. KB, it's been quite a conversation. I've enjoyed every single part of it. As we come to the end of the conversation, I know we've ended this conversation so many times, but then now again, it's just moving up and forth. I love what you've brought in, which is the aspect of young is relative. Because it's not necessarily an age, it's a mind. It's where you're thinking. And I think that's where I also tap into thinking that it's not necessarily how old you are, but where you are. Where are you thinking from? What point are you looking at it? Because, even you coming in to vie for presidency of ZAM, I really like to see vice president, to be part of the people that are leading it. I really like to see young, very, very young, up-and-coming artists to do it. Like you've seen what the ones that have been do what they've done. I think it's time that you came in and disrupted the floor and tried it in your own way. So my wish for you as you go for elections is that Natasha Chansa and her friends will say, no, we have my own people that we'd like to bring in. But I really hope that it goes well and that we were able to have and see those differences. The thing about saying things on TV is that 1 year, 6 months, maybe even a month from now, I'll call you back and I'll ask you these very things.
Yeah, and just to make a disclaimer, of course you're going to come and ask you, so you say this and that. I try not to overpromise. All I try to do is try to implement what I'm thinking and try to do as much as I can. So when I come back and you ask me and I say, okay, you know what, I did try this and this, but I was frustrated because of ABC. But I can tell you that from everything we've been doing, you might not see the results now, but the foundation has been built. So that's the most important thing. Sometimes just fixing certain things or trying to put certain things sometimes can take time. I've told you, I've been in the industry for 20 years. It took me, I don't know if I've seen this in the background, it took me my first 12, 13 years in the industry, I didn't really make money. Just learning, making mistakes and learning. I made so many mistakes. And people say, why don't you sign? I mean, with all these things, I've gained a lot of experience, So most of this, you have to learn some of these things. You have to go through experiences. You have to be in there. So if I get in there, of course I'm going to make some mistakes, And I have to make mistakes for me to learn. If I don't make mistakes, I will never learn. I'll never know what works or what doesn't work, So, yeah, I mean, even if I come back, if we don't manage to necessarily, take it there in that short period of time, because it's just a 4-year term, 2 years, 2 years. If we're not able to do that in 4 years, we would have at least built a proper foundation for people like you to come and say, oh, there's a foundation, let's now take it up. And we're good to go. So my intentions, I mean, I've been in this business for close to slightly over 20 years. My intentions have always been pure. If I come in and do something, I mean, I give out free information on my Facebook about how to monetize. And, a lot of people actually call me. I mean, I'm supposed to be charging for consultation, but the people that will just call me randomly. So I've been trying to do this, blah, blah, blah. And, I've got time. I'll tell you what knowledge I have, and I don't have a problem with that. But if I can take it on a bigger scale, that's even better. I mean, if I can educate more people and a lot of people are in tune with what's happening, then it becomes easy. Then even if I leave, at least I would have known that, oh, I played a role. This is what KB was able to do, and I'll be happy. That makes me happy at the end of the day.
KB, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you so much for having me.
We were talking to the one and only KB, who is vying for Vice President of the Zambia Association of Musicians on the Table. We love to hear what you have to say, and that's where the comment section is where you respond. Catch us on YouTube as well, Diamond TV Zambia, and follow Diamond TV across the board on all of our social media platforms. Be sure to tune in, DSTV 271 and GoTV Channel 20. Thank you so much for watching On the Table with me, your host, Kasonde Wellington.